Enlisted is one of the most complicated games that I've personally ever played. There's just a lot going on, and while a lot of it can be pretty self-explanatory, there's also a lot of stuff in the game that is simply not really told in a direct way to the players. And that's what we're going to be going over today. All those little hidden tips and tricks or mechanics that you don't necessarily know about, hopefully I'm going to be explaining to you guys today. Now, like I said, there's a lot of these things in the game, and I'm not going to be able to touch on all of them in this video. So if there's something that I missed, make sure to leave a comment down below what it is to share that info with the rest of us. But enough of that, let's get started with our first tip. And naturally, our first tip is far and away the most important tip in this list. The other tips that are going to be coming are quality of life things or things that might save you in specific situations, but this one is relevant all of the time. In fact, it is crucial to understanding how you can win more matches in Enlisted. And it goes like this. In Enlisted, when you're capturing an objective, if you have the same amount of enemies as allies on the objective, then obviously you won't cap. You need to have control. However, what the game doesn't tell you is that you need to have at least 4 more soldiers, real or AI, on the objective to cap at full speed. If you have just 1 more soldier on the objective compared to your enemy, you will be at an absolute snail's pace in terms of capping the objective. Just 25% of max cap speed. So if you're playing Enlisted and you've ever noticed that you're capping so slowly, it's probably because of this. Even if you have 1 soldier on the objective and your enemy has none, you'll still cap at this 25% speed, which is abysmal. Always try to make sure to bring your AI onto an objective after you've cleared the point so you're getting that faster cap speed. If you don't, you're giving the enemy a lot of time to be able to respawn and counterattack to be able to hold the position. And at the same time, if you're defending an objective and the enemy team is making a big push and is starting to overwhelm you, it might be a good idea to hole up on the objective somewhere and try to pick off a small amount of players at a time. If you can take out just a couple and even those numbers out a little bit to where the enemy only has 1 or maybe 2 more on the objective than you, then you're going to be able to buy yourself a lot of time when it comes to your team reinforcing you and taking back the objective. Now this next tip is for all you beautiful engineer players out there. If you guys didn't know, engineers actually have different buildables depending on their squad types. For example, the standard engineer squad can build AT guns, AA guns, and all the various defenses that you'll see in the game. But did you guys know that the Engineer 2 squad, which is unlocked later on in the tech tree, can also build a medium machine gun nest, like the 30 cal for the Americans, which can put down a decent amount of firepower and builds pretty quickly. Engineers in machine gunner squads, however, can build heavy machine gun nests, like the 50 cal for the Americans, and those are able to put down serious amounts of firepower in a very, very short amount of time, but is limited specifically to machine gunner squads. On top of this, flamethrower squads can also build the powerful Ampoulement, which is a ranged Molotov launcher, which sounds exactly as powerful and is exactly as annoying as you might think. And finally, guys, engineers in anti-tank squads can predictably build anti-tank guns, which is nice for that squad. Continue on with our tips for engineers. After you build an anti-tank gun, you can actually move it. A lot of players don't realize this, but to do it is pretty easy. You just need to swap seats in the vehicle, just like you would in, say, a tank or something like that, and voila, you'll be able to move the anti-tank gun. Once you're in position, just simply switch back to the original gunner seat and you'll be able to fire away at whatever poor bastard is now in front of your gun. Now, obviously, this can be very useful for moving the anti-tank gun into a position where you can fire on an enemy vehicle, or if one has slipped past you and your allies. But it can also be very useful to build an anti-tank gun in a safe, covered position where your engineers aren't going to be fired at, and then move the anti-tank gun by yourself into position to fire on the enemies. This way you're not exposing your entire squad to the dangers of enemy bullets, which, I don't know, don't quote me on this, but those are pretty dangerous. Now on top of this, you can also reload your anti-tank gun and AA guns. You don't need to dismantle them and then rebuild them. Simply pull out your hammer and run up to them and hold either the T key on PC or hold down X key if you're on Xbox, or I guess that would be square on PS4, PlayStation plus PS5. And voila, again, you'll be able to see a little user interface pop up as the thing is refilled. So again, you don't have to tear it down and then build it back up. You'll be able to refill it very, very quickly and be able to get back into the action. This also works for rebuilding and repairing the machine guns on heavy machine gun nests and medium machine gun nests, so that can be a useful way to repair those if they've been broken by enemy gunfire as well. Now, you probably have realized by this point that Enlisted has a perk system in it, and a pretty robust perk system at that. But what you might not have realized is that certain classes in the game actually have access to a different set of perks. For example, the Engineer class has access to perks that allow them more buildable supplies, making them able to build more defenses at one time, as well as a perk that decreases the amount of time it takes to build them, meaning you can get those same defenses up much faster. Now, more importantly than Engineers is the fact that Tankers also have access to their own set of perks, the most important of which is a perk that reduces the time it takes to reload the main cannon for your tank. Now, for these types of perks, they do need to be set in the specific position. For example, if a perk says that it is a gunner perk, you need to make sure that the gunner of your tank, which it says in the squad menu, has that perk. If your driver has that perk, you will not benefit from that perk's abilities. So make sure you guys are applying these perks and applying them to the correct soldiers. Speaking of tanks, it's very important for them to always have good situational awareness. After all, you want to make sure you can see an enemy infantry squad attacking you. Now, if you didn't know, you can actually pop out of the top hatch of your tank if you're the commander, allowing you a much better and unobstructed view of the surrounding areas. Be careful when you do this, since you'll obviously be exposing yourself to enemy soldiers. Once out of the hatch, you can use the top-mounted machine gun, or even pull out your own primary weapon by pressing the B key on console or on PC. Now, this is obviously a great way to push off enemy soldiers who are trying to drop TNT onto your tank, and I really can't tell you guys how many times I've killed some random jackass who wasn't expecting me to just pop out and shoot them. If you want some really spicy tactics also, you can have a friend with a bazooka or a Panzerschreck or something like that climb into your commander seat of your tank and pop out the top, giving you a mobile anti-tank bazooka squad. Now, our last tip is a very simple and straightforward one. Engineers actually dismantle enemy fortifications, and friendly fortifications for that matter, faster. Which makes sense, but a lot of people don't seem to realize this. So if you attack an enemy position that they have very heavily fortified with barbed wire and sandbags and all these different fortifications, and you're short of explosive packs to blow them up, simply grab your engineer, run up, and start dismantling stuff. You'll dismantle things significantly faster than your average soldier would, and it can be a great way to break enemy fortifications very, very simply for your team to be able to attack. And that's all the tips that I have, at least for this video. If you guys learned something new, then please consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video. It helps me out, and I really do appreciate it, guys. I'd love to have you back for future tips and tricks and gameplay videos. Without anything else, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Take it easy.